Welcome back to my channel. I am Nicole Frolic of Inflexible Me, and today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about romantic relationships. And one of the biggest saboteurs, I personally believe, is interfering in a lot of relationships. And one of those things is social programming. Now, social programming is really a tricky thing, because if you look at throughout at least even just the last decade or two, you look at movies, you look at TV, magazines, there's a lot of information out there that is really trying to, in a way, help us. But the reality is it's not helpful. And in my experience, I've realized that the social programming that's going on is actually quite detrimental to our relationships. We have so many people trying to get involved, and we're being forced in a way to listen to all these outside voices and not take into account what's really going on inside of us. And one of the biggest things that I really don't like is this idea that there's an answer, a general answer for every type of person or relationship. And I just don't believe that that's true when you get down to the deeper roots of the issues. So for instance, there's, what was that movie that came out so long ago? He's Just Not That Into You. I can't even remember the name of it. If anyone's watching, and you can just put it into the chat. But it's, if a guy's not paying attention to you, it's because he's just not that into you. Now, sure, that might seem like it's obvious on the outside looking in, but there are so many other factors that go into play. And what that's doing, what something like that is doing, is reducing the individuality of every person. It's not taking into account every person's individuality, as well as what's going on in their life. We all have so many things that are going on in our daily lives that are individual to us, that we have to deal with, that could be forming what's actually happening in our lives and perhaps having an impact on our relationships. So when something feels like it's not going right, like perhaps you're in a relationship and something's happening and you just don't like the way it's making you feel, what our tendency is to gravitate towards these old ideas, these beliefs that have been instilled in us through this social programming, that you start drawing upon what makes sense, because we're trying to make sense of what's going on. And by doing this, what we do is we tend to rely on these old sayings, such as "he's just not that into you," or there's so many different sayings out there. But what's actually happening? Could this person be going through something that you have no idea is going on below the surface? And we tend to react. We tend to want to know things quickly. We tend to want to solve a problem instantly because we don't like being in discomfort. We don't want, especially in our romantic relationships, we want to make sure that everything's good. And so we try to solve the problem. And oftentimes we're trying to solve the problem on our own first and come up with all these conclusions of what could be happening without even actually talking to the other person first. And this is something that I used to go through in some of my relationships, where I would be trying to figure out, why this person maybe hadn't called me, or why this person hadn't texted me in like 1 or 2 days in response to something I had texted them. And, there's so many different reasons that it could be. And yes, it could be that the person isn't so keen on you, and that they're just not excited to talk to you. So for instance, I was dating someone, and this person would take a lot longer to get back to me than I was used to. But I was convinced that this person was really into me. And so it wasn't making sense to me. I just didn't understand. And so then I would be going through these ideas in my head of like, well, perhaps he's really not that into me, perhaps, or maybe perhaps there's someone else that he's interested in. And you come up with all these ideas because society, especially social programming, you know, you look at our social media, it's just filled with all of these, you know, advice tips on like how to predict what's going on in your relationship, that, you know, you start to think, oh, maybe that's it. And the reality was it wasn't any of those things at all. In fact, this person just had a very, very busy life beyond something that I was even able to comprehend. And when I realized that I needed to really take into account the individual situation of this person, it really helped me understand that I had to stop relying on old beliefs, old ideas that may have applied to someone else in my past, but certainly didn't apply to this person right now. Hey Joyce, how you doing? And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we face in our romantic relationships, is that we're constantly using our past history to predict what's going on now. And that's great if you're dating the same person, but we're not always dating the same person. In fact, you know, if you're dating a lot trying to find the right person for you, then you're going to go through perhaps quite a few people before you get to the right one. And if you're constantly using these old patterns that you've experienced, that, you know, we kind of go in that predictor of history repeats itself, well, that's true to some extent, but it doesn't give the full picture. It doesn't give the full history. And the reason why I say that is because if you have started doing a lot of your own growth work, if you have started to shift the way you're perceiving yourself, the way you're treating yourself, the way you want to be in all of your relationships, whether they're with friends, family, romantic partners, business partners, co-workers, whatever it is, then you've changed. And so whoever you're going to be attracting into your energy field is going to be different than what you used to be attracting. So you can't always go based off of the history of all your past relationship partners, trying to understand the current ones. And so what I started to realize is with perhaps like with this person, is that I had to really look at him, and I had to really go by the history of what we had. And when I started to really understand it, I could see like this person, he's actually a really good man, a really good person, and didn't really have any ill intentions or I want to say poor behavior patterns that perhaps I would have chosen in past partners. And I was actually getting ready to sabotage something that could be really, really good had I continued to look back on old patterns. And so what I would love to offer to all of you in these times, because we're all starting to upgrade, we're all starting to shift our vibration and our frequency, we're really trying to understand ourselves, and in this kind of space of understanding how to love ourselves more and really get to the heart of who we are and what is most valued to us. You know, when you start to really get connected with your own value system, your own honor system, what is meaningful for you, that really starts to shift everything around you. And so people who you may have attracted that didn't align with that will start to fall away, and new people will start to come into your energy field that do support that. So we don't want to use those old ideas and beliefs and apply them to the new frequency that we've attracted into our relationships, because it's going to end up sabotaging them. Now, unfortunately, when we look at social programming, it's still in a very low frequency. It's applying to a very general population for the most part who hasn't done a lot of frequency rising. And so it really applies to these 3D relationships. But to be honest, these 3D relationships are doomed if they continue to follow through with this advice, because it takes away this whole idea of individuality. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like labels. I really don't like to use labels. because it pigeonholes us. It puts us in a box that we have to stay in. And there's so much uniqueness to all of us, which then filters into our relationships, which is so important to understand and know that we honor who we are individually as well as our partners. Then we get to have a deeper understanding of true relationship, true honoring of not just yourself, but the other person, and creating a space that allows for the expression of more understanding, more compassion. Compassion is such a huge one because we really do need to have compassion, and also it removes that need to react, that need to like solve the problem, to understand everything right in that moment. And oftentimes what we're trying to solve has nothing to do with us, and so there isn't anything to solve, and it's all about the other person. And so it's a matter of like having compassion for the other person in our relationship and holding the space for when they're ready. If they're not ready to speak about something that may be bothering them, that we hold that space and we keep it available for them. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that today. I've been like so crazy. I've been traveling. I'm in Canada again, and it was our Thanksgiving over the weekend, and there's just been so much going on. My nephew was born last week, and so there's just so much that I haven't really had a chance to do videos, and I don't have time to even really edit one or think about editing one. So I just wanted to do this live with you guys. Let me just see here. Sylvia, when you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. Yeah, that's cute. And sometimes the one you're with is just yourself. And so we do need to love ourselves. And Joyce, it's funny when you really just share unconditional love in all relationships, it helps you grow. I have done this with a relationship and I'm so proud of. Oh, good for you, Joyce. You know what? It's so true. And I have to say that the person who I've been talking about has done wonders to teach me about unconditional love. And that's another huge aspect of these relationships. As you move into these 5D relationships, as you start to resonate more in a 5D frequency, you really do bring forth this opportunity to practice your unconditional love. So, you know, for me, I understand what unconditional love is in my mind. I really do. I even understand what it is in my heart. But until we actually live something out, we don't fully know it in ourselves. That cellular knowing isn't anchored yet. And so, you know, living something out and talking about it are two separate things. And so when I realized that this person was giving me an opportunity to practice unconditional love with him, that I was so excited about that. But at the same time, I was also struggling because I realized that I had to battle these social programming ideas of, you know, like what it meant when this person did this or this person did that. And luckily, I didn't fall to prey to those traps and remain to stay in that kind of 5D thinking, hold the compassion, hold the unconditional love. And it's done a lot of good for me in learning what it means to actually unconditionally love someone without the expectations. We put so many expectations, especially on our romantic relationships. And when you don't have expectations, you're just free to enjoy it as it is. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And oh, good. And your partner's grown too. And whether he is or not, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. I mean, we get so caught up in this idea of, is it the one? Is it not the one? And, you know, it takes away from actually enjoying the person in that moment for whatever it is, for whoever they are, for whatever that relationship could be in that moment, whether it's short-lived or long-lasting. And Greg, letting go of relationship now in the past 4 months, hard as hell, letting go of a person that I love and yet very toxic. Thanks for the compassion reminder. You're so welcome, Greg. And I know how hard it is. I've been there. I've been in really toxic relationships where I love the person deeply. And I know that he loved me, but the relationship was super toxic and I had to get out because it was a self-love matter for me. Like if I didn't get out, then I would continue subjecting myself to something that I know I didn't deserve. And so that's kind of painful when you know you love someone and you know they love you, but there's other matters going on in the relationship that you just can't resolve. And so you have to walk away. And walking away is sometimes really difficult, but it's also oftentimes our best choice. Now, I find that in this time, so many people are willing to just walk away so fast. In fact, this is a conversation this person and I had one day at lunch where he said, Nicole, I just feel like no one's willing to put in the time or the effort to really get to know people anymore, to really understand them. And I just thought that was so true. We don't really take the time to get to know people. We base all of our assumptions off of everything that we've learned through the past and what we're being told through society and all these social programs and understanding what relationships are. And we don't actually take the time to push that all out to the side and just focus on what's in front of us and all of the information being exchanged from that person to you and you to that person. And that is really something to focus on as we move through these frequencies and begin our upgrades and move into that unconditional heart space, move into fifth dimensional heart structure, where we really do want to start forming the relationships that operate from that platform. 3 years. I know. I've been there. I've been there, Greg. I've been there. But you know what? The person now and we actually love each other very much still. We're still good friends. And it took us a little time to get past that. But we both realized that it was the right decision for us and our growth. And sometimes these toxic relationships, we've called them in because we need these mirrors and we need these lessons. And sometimes we want to learn our lessons the hard way. I know I do sometimes. Oh, Rob, I can fully relate to that, although I haven't walked away. Whether things will change or end has yet to be seen. Every day is just so exhausting for me. Well, just make sure, Rob, that you're taking care of you and put your focus on you in making sure that you feel fulfilled in whatever ways that you can do that for yourself. So that you're not feeling exhausted. And if that is something that is going to last, then that person will pick up their game and come and meet you halfway. It's a tricky road, relationships. They really are. I found that, once you start modeling the behavior that you want, without expectation of the other person doing it, and you start to feel fulfilled, therefore exude that fulfillment, the person can see it and they'll start to want to be part of that. And if it's too uncomfortable for them and they just don't get it, then they won't, and you'll know, and it'll be time to walk away. Hi, Daniela. Nothing as value as the lessons when you walk to understand our growth and expansion. Yeah. Growth and expansion, that's what we're all here for. And our romantic relationships are some of the most important relationships that we ever journey on. They're our deepest mirrors. They really go deep into our soul, and we've called upon them for that special and specific reason. Joyce, if you stay in the worry, daily energies, it doesn't raise either vibration. No, it doesn't. Worry is a really low vibration of consciousness. And it keeps you in that survival mode where you're reactionary and you're not thriving. And you really want to be thriving in order to really attract what it is that you want. And it's not impossible for your partner to pick up on that and to be able to shift their energy if you've shifted theirs. You may be at that particular point in the relationship the spiritual guide for the both of you, and maybe it just takes one of you to make that shift in order for the other person to kind of shift out of it as well. It's possible. Anything is possible. That's the beautiful thing about 5D. Anything is possible. There are infinite possibilities to all of our options. Whatever timeline you want to get on, you need to take your frequency to that timeline. And your relationship could jump a timeline and get into a super positive one as long as you match it. And if you're matching it, then there's a higher likelihood that your partner could. Now, if they're completely not a match and it's too uncomfortable for them, then they'll fall away. But the great thing about that is that you're going to probably find that out really fast, because when you start to shift your frequency, things start to move a lot faster, and you speed up the timelines so that you get your answers much quicker. Rob, you've been together going on 8 years, but the last year has been the exhausting part. You know, we all hit ruts. We all have, everything's kind of cycles, everything's ebb and flow. You know, it's just time to, when you, Rob, all I would say for you is, because I do know, Rob, kind of a little bit about your story. So I totally understand. I think for you, you just got to focus on you right now, and everything else will come into play. Everything will make itself known to you, and whatever decisions you need to make, whether it's staying or leaving, you will know them beyond a shadow of a doubt with absolute certainty when you stand up for yourself and do the things that make you happy. That will all shift for you very quickly. Hi, Lisa love. I love you. And Greg, you took a big shift. She didn't, and that changed everything. He feels you, Rob. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, you know, like these shifts, they really do happen. And sometimes our partners aren't meant to go on that shift with us. However, they were the catalyst for us. So have gratitude for that. They were the catalyst for that shift. So always finding gratitude for the situation you're in is obviously a great frequency to move into, and it helps you actually jump that timeline. It helps you get into that 0 point so that you can jump the timeline really fast and move into a more positive one. Rob, that's what you've been doing since we talked. Okay, it's helped you out, and oh, I'm glad, Rob. Just know that you got lots of support and there's lots of love in this community, and just know that you're not alone either. There's lots of people going through what you're going through, and I've been through it myself, so I understand. So, all right, everyone. Well, I love you all, and I'm really excited. I'm hoping it's going to be my next video. I'm practicing it out right now because I don't like to talk about things I've never experienced before, but I've met some really cool people recently. Very cool people. People who are like remote viewing and battling like crazy entities and doing some really interesting stuff that just the average person wouldn't talk to you about. And one of the guys, he told me how to discover your frequency signature, your own frequency signature. So I'm going to practice that over the next couple of days and see if I can discover mine. And if it works, I'm gonna share that with you guys. So I'm looking forward to that. So anyways, guys, have a wonderful week, and I will be back with you all very, very soon. And lots of light and love, and be on the lookout for these energy waves that are coming in. Take good care of yourself. I know that a lot of people are getting hit really hard with some of these energy waves. So just get your rest, drink lots of water, and surround yourself in a lot of love, okay? I love you all, and we'll talk